And I don't know what Donald Trump has to do with South African land, because he's never been here.
Hello, folks. Welcome back. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. We're now getting responses from South Africa's government officially to President Trump's promise to cut off all future aid to South Africa over its behavior. President Ramaphosa says he will not engage Trump with a begging bowl, but will instead educate him. Listen to the shop steward, beneficiary of patronage wealth gifted to him, preparing to lecture the most successful real estate tycoon and leader of the free world. This should be entertaining.
He's even worse. When I meet him, I will tell him.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that since Simonstown and Boulders. Folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa.
Now, News 24 reports that Ramaphosa aims to clarify Pretoria's stance on the Expropriation Act, addressing and rectifying any misconceptions and misinformation about South Africa during his discussions with Trump. No need, Cyril. Folks can read the law. You kindly provided an English version for us. Now, Ramaphosa, who signed the expropriation bill on January 23, 2025, said he wanted to meet Trump to discuss South Africa's land reform policy and issues of bilateral interest. Funny thing is that, Cyril, you had no interest in discussing expropriation without compensation with Trump since 2018, preferring only to lecture him up until now. And you missed the point, Cyril. Talk about being oblivious. The mere threat of cutting off all future foreign assistance has you begging for a meeting now, and that was kind of the point, pal. In 2018, your arrogance and condescending attitude was beyond the pale, lecturing the American president of the United Nations in front of an asinine America-hating Christian Amanpour.
President Trump, as a leader of an important country like the United States, it is important for you not to disrespect or show any disrespect to any country in the world.
You did political stumping speeches brazenly mocking America and Trump, spewing racial myths and race-hustling tropes about his forebears and Native Americans, all while displaying shocking cognitive dissonance about your own ancestors crossing the Zambezi and Limpopo rivers approximately 1,600 years ago, and what that meant for the indigenous San and Khoikhoi peoples your colonizing ancestors encountered there.
And he must keep his America, we will keep our South Africa.
In a puff piece of reportage at Propaganda 24, Amanda Koza delves into opinion, not fact, in trying to mislead readers about the situation. That's unfortunate. Please keep your disinformation on the op-ed page rather than co-mingle it with a news story. And she writes, in an article debunking Trump's misinformation, News 24 established there were no records of expropriation without compensation by South Africa's democratic government, and the recently signed expropriation bill includes safeguards, even under its nil compensation clauses. Your article debunked nothing. You simply offered your opinion and poor interpretation of what Trump stated, nothing more. President Ramaphosa's spokesman, Vincent Magwenya, in a rather calm and measured response on camera, had the following to say to Koza. Countries are not compelled to issue aid, so we're not going to go around with a begging bowl, begging for aid. No, they're not compelled. That much is true. However, Pretoria not going around with a begging bowl is disingenuous. That's exactly what the ANC has been doing for years, from the just energy transformation, so many other things. Ramaphosa spewed the race-hustling lie about vaccine apartheid, seeking to guilt the West into pushing South Africa to the front of the line after refusing to participate in the COVID jab trials or contribute to the effort whatsoever, preferring to grift $711 million for Aspen Pharmacare to manufacture jabs for all of Africa. By the way, when did those deliveries begin? The money was forthcoming back in August of 2020. South Africa joined the chorus of beggars demanding debt relief for Africa just days after the COVID scam began. Meanwhile, the ANC went cap in hand, begging the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, and the BRICS Bank for money in the summer of 2020, securing around $5.6 billion, upwards of 90 billion rand. Now, that was only forthcoming owing to the good graces of Washington backing your request. Not begging? Now you moan that your failure to take responsibility for your own affairs after 22 years as a beneficiary of the president's emergency program for AIDS relief is something that you are owed. How so? Perhaps Munir Palapala needs to consult the dictionary for the proper definition of begging. You see, begging is the act of asking for something, typically food or money, as charity or a gift. And it's the height of cognitive dissonance and arrogance. After purportedly signing the EWC bill into law secretly in December, letting 35 days elapse in violation of Section 81 of the South African Constitution on public disclosure, so as to prevent the opposition from filing a Section 80 case at the Constitutional Court, his spokesman now wants to claim the following. Magwenya said Ramaphosa was concerned because he learned of Trump's concerns on X, despite the two leaders speaking on the phone shortly after Trump was reelected for a second term in the White House. My fuck Marles. Are you serious? And how exactly did your own Government and National Unity Coalition partners learn that you had signed the bill? Via X and the media, no? Not to mention the fact that I don't think most of them realize that you signed this in December, not January 23rd. What an arrogant cuss. We are open to engaging with the Trump administration. Minister of International Relations, Ronnie Lamola, will, in a day or so, be engaged in a call with his U.S. counterpart. We think that will then precipitate a series of engagements at multiple levels of the Trump administration, including engagements that our ambassador in Washington, Ibrahim Rasool, will be spearheading to try and clarify these matters. So your plan going forward is to engage with the United States after ignoring us and lecturing us for 6 years, and do it via known America and Trump haters, Ibrahim Rasool, Ronnie Lamola, and Cyril Ramaphosa, all of whom have posted things online that are disgusting, vile, and factually incorrect about Donald Trump. Not to mention, oftentimes, a bit racist.
So Donald Trump must leave us alone.
So hey, I've got a question for you from back in Obama's day. How's that hope and change going for you? Magwenya said, we are going to engage on issues that misrepresent what is happening in our country. If we engage with the Trump administration, we will not be doing so with a begging bowl, begging for aid. We will engage over their misunderstanding of the Expropriation Act, misinformation, untruths that are unfortunately being peddled further of things that are not happening in South Africa. Then he deflected, blaming others for exposing the ANC's own actions. South African organizations like AfriForum, who have no interest for the country and who continue to think that you can sustain an island of prosperity against a sea of poverty and undermine any form of transformation in the country, did not help the situation. So it was not Ramaphosa thumbing his nose at Trump, but rather AfriForum that led to the cutoff in future aid. Are you trying to convince the world that it was not Ramaphosa neglecting to mention on the telephone that he had secretly signed the highly contentious unconstitutional bill and then making a show of it in Davos on January 23rd? Is that what you're trying to tell us? Do you really think that Trump did not take offense, likely fully aware of Ramaphosa's purported duplicitous political shenanigans? I suspect Trump knew full that Ramaphosa signed that bill in December and waited till January 23rd when his opponents could do nothing legally about it. Magwenya continues, worse, they then peddle lies, misrepresent, and distort the country's position and laws. We will continue to call them out while we are engaging with our U.S. counterparts on these issues. Continue to engage. No, it's more like you're now begging to engage after being dismissive for 6 years. Vincent? Now who is begging? Also, apparently Vincent takes the world for rubes. The truth is well known. There is no confiscation of land in South Africa. The Expropriation Act does not call for that. Well, the definition of confiscation is the act of taking or seizing someone's property with authority. Seizure. For example, a court ordered the confiscation of her property. Okay. Sounds like confiscation. An expropriation is defined as the act by the state or an authority of taking property from its owner for public use or benefit. The decree provided for the expropriation of church land and buildings. For example, the act of dispossessing someone of their property. And the distinction between the two is what exactly? The same result. People are left devoid of their property. Magwenya said there were safeguards in place when it came to expropriating land. No, there are not. The new law is not in accord with the Constitution, which requires compensation. Laws do not trump the Constitution. Section 25 does not allow for confiscation, but rather for full and just compensation. There are no exceptions. There's nothing that we are doing that is out of step with our Constitution as a country, and so we think that these misunderstandings will be ironed out once we have an opportunity to engage. In fact, the new law is very much out of step. I've read it, 50-plus pages. Well, the part that's in English, that's half of it. Chapter 5, paragraph 12, subparagraph 3 reads, it may be just and equitable for nil compensation to be paid where land is expropriated in the public interest, having regard to all relevant circumstances, including but not limited to, and they give 4 provisions, the first of which is where the land is not being used and the owner's main purpose is not to develop land or use it to generate income, but to benefit from appreciation of its market value. Now, who are you to determine what land is being used and not used? And what right do you have to take the land because someone wants it to appreciate in value? It's called an investment. It's called an investment. Subparagraph 4 says that when a court or arbitrator determines the amount of compensation in terms of Section 23 of the land reform, Labor Tenants Act of 1996, it may be just and equitable for nil compensation to be paid having regard to all relevant circumstances. Ladies and gentlemen, it is never just or acceptable to abrogate property rights. It's the very basis and foundation of modern society. Nil compensation is, in fact, theft. It's the abuse of state authority, and it will be used to intimidate political opponents and enrich cadres. Does America just misunderstand what's going on here? Is Trump misinformed? Does he have bad counsel, as Action SA advises? Or are South African politicians trying to pull the wool over your eyes? Well, they're not pulling it over my eyes. I know what's going on here, and I've been exposing it for years. So what say you? Where is the opposition? Is there any opposition? Would somebody please stand up? It's time for the real Slim Shady to make their presence known. You have agency, South Africa. Get busy. Cheers.
They're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
They are going to continue to expropriate this land without compensation. They're saying that they're going to invade each and every land around Seshego.